Okay, so this is the first episode of this podcast. And in this episode, we go a little bit into the difference between motivation and discipline and how to build discipline. And we cite many different sources, both using David Goggins as an example, but also some research done that is synthesized by Andrew Huberman. I guess we first started by talking about the goals that we had for this podcast, some of which I've edited down because it's not really like that essential to the main topic. But I guess like in summary, we kind of established that the long-term goal for this podcast that we have is to build a brand around ourselves, like me and the other creator of this podcast, and not just like the things that we talk about. So in the future, we plan to have more guests and have like more interesting and lively discussions about certain topics. So I hope you keep out for that. And without further ado, here is the podcast.
What were we talking about, bro?
What were we talking about? How do all our interesting ideas just go away now?
We're talking about motivation and discipline a little bit.
Okay. I guess I'll open up with sharing that I was reading David Goggins' book. Ooh, not afraid. I was reading David Goggins' book this morning, and like basically what he was saying in that book is like he had like a shit childhood, but he like learned to not play the victim, I guess. And like if we're saying motivation or discipline, like even he's saying that motivation and discipline are two different things. Because for the first, like, you know what a hell week is for a Navy SEAL? Yeah, so for the first hell week, like for the first hour at least of the first hell week that he did, there was so much adrenaline. Like everybody, they're like drums, and people were like yelling and screaming, like let's go hell week and shit like that. And then after, like, it was just like, it was dead, like it was so dead. And once the adrenaline ran out from that first hour, like apparently a lot of people started asking themselves, like, why am I doing this and stuff like that. And that out of a group of like, I think like 500 men, only 40 of them like pulled through and finished the whole thing.
Say about that in terms of
So
motivation.
if we're saying motivation and discipline, I would like to say that motivation is not the same thing as discipline. Because the 400 men that started the hell week, they had motivation for the first like little bit. But then the 40 people that actually made it through, they're like the ones that are disciplined.
Yeah.
And I think like if you want to accomplish anything actually successful in life, like the 3 a.m. motivation is not a great thing to live by.
It's not enough, yeah, obviously. I feel the same. I think discipline itself, though, is a skill, and it's built by, the only way you can be disciplined is by being disciplined previously. So how do you build discipline then?
I think like if you're saying like how do you build discipline, I think the difference between discipline and motivation is that during discipline you do the activities like even when you don't want to. Like if you're saying going to the gym as an example, because that's where a lot of like people our age, they start to build discipline. And like some days people are gonna wake up and they're like, fuck, I don't want to go to the gym.
And then what makes them do that?
I think you just have to take incremental steps, because discipline is about building habits.
Yeah, but what makes you take that incremental step, even in the first place? That's my question, I guess. Because some people might have like absolutely zero discipline at all. Like how do they take that?
If you have like a little bit of self-respect, you hold yourself accountable.
Maybe. Or I think you need that little bit of motivation at first to get.
Yeah, but then what about when the motivation runs out? Like what if it's like you're after the first few hours of hell week, you're just sitting in cold ass water, normally where you could be at home, like partying, or like with your wife or something.
Right. I guess you have to find something that like to keep you going, because I don't see how someone with no discipline could just tell themselves, oh, I need to be disciplined and do this. Or how does someone with no discipline?
I don't know, maybe if you have a long-term goal, like a lot of people, they're like, I want to be business owners, and then they do like the boring shit, like building a website.
And they're telling themselves in their head, only by doing this, I'll get to that long-term goal.
Yeah,
so
and like if we're using David Goggins as an example, he wanted to be in the Navy SEALs, and he wanted to be like the toughest motherfucker alive.
Yeah.
And he wanted to like, I guess like mentally beat up his like the instructors that were like fucking yelling at him.
Yeah. So he's imagining his future self or better future self. So that is also that motivation you need. Right?
Yeah, I think initially it is motivation, but once you keep doing it for like a sustained amount of time, even when you don't want to do that like specific thing,
Keeping that long-term goal in your head.
yeah, if you're doing it in pursuit of something, then you can eventually start to call it discipline. Because people wake up, they say I don't want to go to the gym, but they go to the gym anyway because they have like the goal, like an aesthetic physique or like super strength.
Yeah. So I guess that goes back to my point. Discipline is like a skill. You don't get it from like something by doing something. It's just by how many times you've been disciplined before. That's what your discipline. If you're talking about your discipline at present, it's by how disciplined you've been in the past, and that's it. Or would you say discipline is from something else? Comes from something else?
If you're saying how disciplined you were in the past, like what do you mean? Like as a child? Like you
Not
want
as
like
a
a piece
child.
of chocolate or something? And
Not as a child. Not as a child. Let's just use this as an example. Alright, so if I were a poor student in school today, right? My work ethic was bad, right? What differentiates me in terms of work ethic from a good student? Or I guess a better example, if I look at someone who is disciplined, right? They don't procrastinate. They get all their work done. What is the difference between me and them? It's just, or I can say this for example. I know someone, all right, who's super disciplined in terms of school, all right. What happened with them is that from their like early age, their parents created that discipline for them. Their parents forced them. They gave them no other option. But if you don't have a parent like that, then you have to do that to yourself, which is much harder. So I guess that comes back to our point. How do you do that to keep a long-term goal in mind, something like that?
Yeah. Well, okay. This, from my side at least, the first episode of this is at least going to turn into the David Goggins like dick sucking contest.
What?
But he had like
yeah.
he had shit parents, bro.
Yeah.
Or his mom was apparently pretty good, but she couldn't do much because she was broke, and their dad controlled all their finances, and his dad was like this abusive asshole that like made his kids like do child labor and shit like that.
Yeah.
And even when David Goggins was young, he was this is just based off the book that I read, but he like cheated a ton in school.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, like I guess he said the thing that he was good at was basketball, and that's because he had that long-term goal. So I think if you have a long-term goal,
So it's just mindset, willpower.
Yeah. Then willpower is something that can be like practiced. Like if you're going out on a run, like you can't expect to run 20 miles. But if you go out for like a 1 mile run first, and then just force yourself to run to 2. Like even this morning, I ran. There's like a guardrail, and I was like I'll stop at the end of this guardrail, and then once I hit the end of the guardrail, I was like, there's only like 200 meters left to that stop sign. I'll keep going to that stop sign. And then when I went to that stop sign, I turned back around, and there's like 200 meters to this guardrail. And then I went back to the guardrail, and then I started walking. So then I could, like I did 400 extra meters.
Yeah, getting started is definitely a big thing, because once you get started, it gets easier. So I can see that,
but there is a thing of how, like during New Year's at least, when people first like make their New Year's resolution, again using the gym as an example. Like when you go to the gym at New Year's, you see a lot of people there. Because a lot of people made their resolution, and then you keep going to the gym consistently for 3 weeks. And the amount of people that you see in the gym is like drastically dropped off. And this happens every year for the past like 2 or so years. I've seen it happen.
Yeah, so I guess what differentiates those people that do stay is willpower then. Or not willpower, but like, I guess, I'm not even sure. What is differentiating those people? Discipline?
Maybe not enough faith in their goals.
Yeah, maybe. Or...
Because for David Goggins, again, his thing, he said like, I want to be nothing if I'm not a Navy SEAL. And he's like, to be a Navy SEAL, I have to lose this weight, 106 pounds in 3 months. It's like, I have to lose this weight. Like, there's no other option for me. Like, if I don't, then I'm done. Like my life is worthless.
Right, so it's like the way you like fix your mindset, or the way where your mindset is, or how you, so it's really about how you are thinking then, you'd say.
Yeah, obviously it's all a mental thing.
It's all mental, but
I don't know, I don't get what you're trying to say. Like, what do you mean?
I don't know. I'm just really wondering like how how do you build discipline? Like we said, there's long-term goals, or you have a long-term goal and you keep that in your head. But is that enough? Like I could say, my long-term goal is to, I don't know, whatever, like be super rich and like drive the best cars and live in a nice place.
It's not the most realistic goal because you can't. Like first, being super rich, it's not like there's not a quantifiable way. I guess you can say like over a certain amount of money, but then after that, there's not like necessarily like a ladder that you can see. Like, because to like lose 106 pounds in 3 months, like there's already a bunch of research that you know that if you follow this, like
so
at least to an extreme
goals,
level, actionable goals.
So setting actionable goals in your head allows you to be more disciplined.
Like if you want to be super rich, then you think like what's the threshold of money that I want to hit?
Yeah.
And then
But there's no
like what skills do I have? And then how can I like weave those skills into like a path to get there? Because there's a bunch of ways to make like $1 million, let's say.
Yeah. So then, being disciplined is about knowing the actions you can take in order to achieve goals.
Yeah,
that's what
keeps knowing the actions, and then not doing like the actions that take away from those.
Yeah. Okay. That's pretty interesting. Mindset. A lot about mindset. How you fix your thoughts.
Yeah, but even then, like if you want me to bring up something else,
Sure.
there's people that have like they go to the gym, and they have like a thing, and they have a goal, let's say like an actionable goal.
Sure.
And but they still struggle with like eating, for example. So I think there's still a lot to do with like cutting. I think it's just as much cutting out bad habits as it is like forming new ones.
Yeah, but cutting out bad habits, the same logic should apply then, right? As doing good habits, performing good habits.
How so?
By cutting out bad habits, you're also working at achieving a long-term goal, right? Or an actionable, let's say, this is an actionable step towards achieving a goal. Let's say if you want to lose weight, you have to like stop eating junk food, for example. Then, like cutting it out from your life completely, let's say.
Yeah.
That's an actionable goal. Then, doesn't that work the same way as building a positive habit into your life? Or would you say it's different?
Well, let me step away from that example for a little bit. But let's say
David Goggins.
someone wants now let's say someone wants to be super rich, but then they just spend all their time watching like productivity videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like it's not something that they are like aware of, I guess, that like they know that they shouldn't be doing this, but they think that doing this is helping them. Like it's called like there's no official term for it, but a bunch of people call it like mental masturbation. Like you think you're doing something good. Because the same thing about like telling your friends like, oh, like I'm gonna be so rich one day and stuff like that, but you're just not doing anything about it. Like just telling them is giving you the dopamine boost.
Yeah. So you're saying it's harder to cut bad habits than build good habits?
I think so. But I think the key to building discipline is to cut out the bad habits. Or it's I guess it's not about whether one is harder, but to build those good habits, I think
You need to get rid of it.
like the key is to drop the bad habits. Yeah. Like it sounds obvious, but most people don't do it.
The reason it may be harder to build good habits is because you have bad habits that are interfering with that.
I guess, yeah. Because, or let's say like the example is, I listened to the Andrew Huberman podcast, and there was one episode where he said like a lot of people that go to the gym that put on music, like they'll end up being like the guys that drop out 3 weeks after New Year's.
Why?
Because the brain associates more pleasure with listening to music than it does going to the gym. So it's not like it takes away the dopamine you get from going to the gym, and it increases the dopamine you get from listening to music.
Yeah.
And then your brain naturally, like subconsciously associates the pleasure with listening to music. So like a person, they feel less inclined to go to the gym. Because motivation is all dopamine, right? Like it's about how good you feel like after, or how good you feel like anticipating it.
Yeah. It is the.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is that like some people can do like things like listen to music while going to the gym that they don't necessarily realize like isn't doing the best for their motivation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
Do you get what I'm trying to say at least?
yeah, I think so. But I don't think dopamine is solely what influences motivation. Because, like, even when we were talking about earlier, long-term goals, like, are you getting dopamine from that? Like,
I'm pretty sure you are, yeah. Like this is fairly commonplace by now, but like when I heard it, I was pretty surprised.
mm-hmm.
So mostly, I can't really draw a diagram, but if you have, like if you're overstimulating your brain,
Mm-hmm.
then your dopamine levels, they go from like your baseline, just how good you feel while doing nothing,
Mm-hmm.
and then they increase all the way, like they rapidly increase at first when you're like looking at on like Instagram or something,
Mm-hmm.
and then after you stop looking at Instagram, they crash, but they crash below what like the baseline level was originally, and it sets a new baseline that's like slightly lower.
Right.
But there's stuff that you can do, like going to the gym without music, or like going on runs,
Mm-hmm.
where initially the dopamine level is low because you feel like shit while doing them. But everyone always feels good after their workout, right? They're at least not listening to music. I don't really like know the exact science behind it, but their dopamine level increases.
The baseline goes up.
Yeah, so the baseline goes down or not the baseline, but the dopamine that they
Level goes down
while
they're performing
while they're
activity
performing
that they don't
activity,
like.
and then but after it goes up and the new baseline is higher. That's why a lot of people do meditation, and that is something that increases your dopamine baseline. Because you're just sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, in at least today's overstimulated world, like they'd much rather be on their phones or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you go I guess, yeah, it's pretty pretentious. I don't want to bring that up.
Well, alright. So then these habits help you get motivation, because you're saying that if you get, or dopamine is what allows for motivation, or dopamine is what causes you to be motivated, and setting your dopamine base level or baseline higher means that, or setting your dopamine base level lower, right?
Your baseline should be high. Your baseline is what you feel like normally without doing anything.
Right.
And for most people today, it's pretty low.
Right. So why would setting that baseline higher cause you to be more motivated?
Well, I wouldn't say it's more motivated, but it's more disciplined at least. Or you feel like your brain again subconsciously associates going to the gym as an activity that makes you feel better. But it's unlike a way, like social media, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Like your brain associates that activity with increasing your dopamine too, but only while you're on it. So if you're watching a movie, for example, or you're hanging out with friends even, that's even an example, you feel so good during it, and then after you just feel like worse, like when your friends aren't there.
Mm-hmm. So, but for gym, like after you feel better.
After you feel better.
So doing those kind of activities makes you want to.
Yeah, but it doesn't even have to be physical activities either. Like,
yeah,
this is how a lot of people solve their procrastination.
Yeah.
Like scientifically, if you're doing, like you have to write a paper for school,
Yeah.
and you just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Like if you write the paper for school, you'll feel shit for like the first 20 minutes while you're writing the paper because you can't concentrate and you can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
But after you write the paper, like you feel so good, like your day is made because you're done, and the stress that the paper is causing you is like lifted off your shoulders.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is that like, discipline is built with activities that increase your dopamine baseline.
Right.
But the real key to actually finding success is by removing the habits that lower your dopamine baseline, which obviously sounds self-explanatory, but something like listening to music while going to the gym is like the perfect example of you're doing an activity that's raising your dopamine baseline. So you're being more disciplined in the gym, but like listening to the music, your brain like flip-flops on like what it actually is feeling like pleasure from. And then like music is kind of like music is an extreme example, or it's not really an extreme example, because like the extreme example is obviously like cocaine.
Yeah.
But Like it's kind of like a drug because your brain wants to keep listening to music because it feels worse when it's not listening to music.
Yeah.
Like if we're drawing a parallel to drugs, for example, like drug addicts are usually they feel their dopamine increases like a million times.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously not, but dopamine increases a lot while they're using the drug, and then like when they're not using the drug, that's why addiction is built because they like feeling that rush of dopamine because it's so overstimulated.
Yeah.
But even as you notice, a lot of people report feeling like less and less. I guess that's not really relevant to our discussion, but a lot of people report feeling less and less. Like they never get the same high that they did the first time.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So you're saying by building these habits, such as, or by setting your dopamine base level higher, then you'll be more willing to do similar things like that. Like, for example, or to become.
Yeah, true. Because somebody who goes to the gym, like normally, like
their dopamine base level is higher.
Yeah, their dopamine base level is higher, but they're more willing to do other tasks, I guess.
Similar to going to the gym. As in that.
Yeah, but
the dopamine.
Yeah, right. It translates across to like other aspects of their life.
Yeah. Okay. So it makes it easier to take those first steps that are hard.
Yeah, because even when you think about it, if you do if you're fearing like writing an essay and you go run like 4 miles and take a shower, like you're more willing to write that essay because you did something that's harder than actually writing the essay itself.
But here's what, for my personal experience, sometimes I'll run in the morning and then I'll say, let's say I worked hard today, I'm calling it a day. Like sometimes I'll have that feeling in the morning. Like if I run in the morning, I'll feel like I did enough work for today.
Yeah, but that's where, like what I was saying earlier with cutting out the bad habits comes in, right?
Yeah.
Because what else are you gonna do with your day? Like probably go on your phone?
Maybe sleep. Or like,
I guess sleep.
I'll be tired after a run.
You take naps after you run?
Oh, maybe.
Really? I don't know. I never do that.
Or sure, yeah. I guess go on your phone. Okay, maybe I'll do that.
But if you are going on your phone,
yeah.
That's what I was saying. That the key to discipline is cutting out the bad habits as well. Because most people think of discipline as building the good habits.
Yeah.
But once you cut out the bad habits,
yeah.
then like you are actively like telling your brain to pursue good things. Like for example, like if you don't go on, like if you cut out going on your phone, or you limit it for like your day, then you will be like more prone to do other more productive things as well, even after you run.
That's true.
Because what else can you really do if you're cutting out the bad habits? There isn't.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Is that a good place to end it?
Yeah.
How long have we been recording? 26 minutes?
Yeah, that's probably good.
Great.